Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
Facilities Advisory Committee, August 28th, 5:30. And so first thing we'll do is roll call and introductions. Alan, you want to start?
Alan Mangan, been a member now for a couple of months, and I work in Hero.
And Vice Chair.
And Vice Chair. Sorry about that part, most important part. I was reading emails.
Yeah.
Rob Corson, member.
Mark Layton, Chair of the committee.
And Don Bristleton, a relatively new member.
Yeah. So and Chris Weeks, who's our other member that is absent today, and we are without a select board member today, but it's fun. Any volunteers for minutes?
I'll volunteer.
All right, Rob. As always, we can share if we have comments in advance. We do not have any past meeting minutes to review. We're still working on the July meeting minutes. So first on our agenda would be, Dave, I think with you, a police station, fire substation update.
Yep. Seems touchy. Okay. I don't know what I told you last time, if we got to the point, were we under contract for the design firm?
No, you were reviewing you were reviewing proposals and you were going to present to the board on August 5th.
Correct. Okay. Got it. Thank you. So we did that. We recommended working with T-Gas, and it's Ted Galante Architectural Studios is what T-Gas stands for. And the select board authorized us. We went under contract shortly thereafter. It was great because usually contract negotiations take quite a long time. But he was willing to, we sent it to Primex and our attorney, and they made a bunch of changes as they usually do, and he just accepted them and signed it. So that was great. That's rare. And I think they're a great firm. They're going to do, I think, an excellent job for us. And we had a kickoff meeting yesterday, actually, with the design team, the fire chief, the police chiefs, the police chief and the deputy police chief, assistant town manager, myself, CHA, the OPM, David Hurley and Joseph Sullivan. And Ted Galante was there, and a lady was there with him. She just kind of took notes, and I was very impressed with him. He knew a lot about public safety. He was asking questions about ammunition and and questioning the concept plan is you got a prisoner. He understood exactly how the workflow is. So
what was the name of the firm again? Sorry.
T-Gas, T-G-A-S. So it was an impressive start. So they're gonna hit the ground running. So I think the plan was to have them on board at least by schematic, the CM on schematic design. So we're gonna
right, okay.
The next thing was get the geotech out there, We solicited, I solicited quotes from 4 firms. We selected Kevin Martin out of Hampstead. I think it was like 13,000 or 12,000, something like that, to do the scope that we're looking for. I'm actually meeting them, I'm meeting their sub-consultant Soil-X on site tomorrow. So we'll do that. DPW volunteered to go out with the excavator and do the test pits.
Oh, good.
That saves some money. So thank you to Steve Cronin and his crew, Jay Perkins. So we'll be getting that done, and then we'll be writing the RFP for the construction manager. I don't know when it's gonna issue, but they just been saying, right around, the
Schematic design.
schematic design,
Yeah.
or, the completion, have them, have them on board by the time schematic design is
Yeah.
done. Or
So-
design development starts right around, that area.
So you'll probably use the schematic design documents as part of the RFP? Is that the plan?
That is gonna be up to the OPM, CHA, or,
Yeah.
they've only told me that, I'm just relaying
Okay.
that they're looking. So I don't know if they're gonna put it out beforehand to try to get them on board, and anticipate it being done, so they won't have those documents, but we'll see.
Okay.
They also depend on what they're asking for in that RFP, right? If there's any conceptual estimating or anything else, right? That
It would also help just to,
it's an RFQ or RFP?
It's an RFQ.
Yeah.
oh, RFQ.
Yeah, okay.
You're not
That's,
asking for proposals, you're just asking for.
Well, wait a minute.
Quotes
That's
or
good.
proposals?
No, we did an RFP for the architects. You know what? I think we would probably ask for some sort of price.
Yeah, you can do both, you could qualifications and proposal.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, RFQ is just typically just qualifications.
No, I understand that. Yeah,
right.
I just, we haven't gotten that far, I don't think.
Okay,
So I know what I would do, but CHA is kind of the OPM. so
Sure.
and then they've been doing this a lot more than I have, so I'll follow their lead.
yeah, no, but you hope to have a CM on board by start of DD, it sounded like, right?
That's what they've been indicating.
Yeah,
So I
okay.
think Ted from T-Gas is gonna look at the schedule again to, refresh the schedule and then come back with us. That's what he left yesterday. He got a lot of information yesterday, but he's like, I'll give you to make sure we're all on track and stay on a schedule and we know when the deliverables. So he's revisiting the schedule to make sure we're on track. So that will come up, I'm sure that will include, when the CM
Okay.
is coming on board. So I'll share that when I get to that point.
Yeah, if you're going to get, just an opinion, if you're going to get the value out of the partnership, the sooner you can get the CM on board, even if it is into schematic design or the tail end of schematic design, it can save you some money, improves coordination. So I certainly wouldn't recommend that you get over into the design development without the CM on board. That doesn't
That's-
sound like you're going to.
That's not been my understanding.
Yeah, yeah. That it'll be before design development.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah.
Correct. It'll be at the end of schematic design.
yeah.
That's, whether they issue the documents in the RFP, I don't know.
Yeah. If they're ready, it would help to define the scope.
That would be helpful,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, for the
That
CM.
that levels the playing field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gives them a better idea.
Yeah, maybe that's what
Yeah.
that's a great question. It's something I would ask CHA when I
Sure.
talk to them next time. We have weekly updates, meetings with them on, I think it's Tuesday now, Tuesdays at 1:45. We have a weekly check-in, just to check in. We didn't do it yesterday because they came in person, T-Gas and the OPMs.
Yeah.
Came in person to the fire station, so we met there, but we do it every week, so.
So next steps, that you've selected a geotech, that was your next step.
Yep.
RFP for CM. Anything else? Are those really?
The schedule from the architect, an
Yeah.
updated schedule from the architect to see,
Yeah.
when they're gonna be able to finish and go
Yeah.
to bid.
But they've hit the ground running. I mean, you've done the kickoff meeting
Yeah.
and they're going for it now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good.
well, and now, when they were revisiting the schedule, did they, from a project delivery standpoint, is it a bid? Is it a CM? So it goes back to how are they actually going to contract it?
Contract who?
So the CM, so the CM's basically are they gonna bid out every division, every section of it, or are they gonna do a negotiated scenario? I know we had talked about the whole design builds piece of it way back when,
My understanding is this is not a design build.
right? And is it gonna be
Construction
full?
manager Chris.
At risk.
Yeah, but I think the issue would be, are they going to go through and complete all the documents?
It's a GMP arrangement.
With a
Right.
GMP.
Yeah.
Are they going to bring on subcontractors early? Are they going to, what's their, don't know. Okay.
I don't.
Because that would affect the schedule. It would affect the design schedule, because the reality is that if they were going to produce, say, MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing drawings, to bring on subcontractors early,
Yeah, it might be to be TBD, right?
Right.
Maybe when you hire the CM, you may come in with some suggestions on you
Yeah.
streamlining some of that.
Right.
But you hired T-Gas to do a schematic design, then a design development, Dave, and then construction documents? Is that how you
Well,
structured it?
we kind of, I think, like, let me get how it was they were saying. There is schematic design and design development, but they like pushed it into one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, which makes sense. I mean, if you have, I mean, you're already down a path that you have a concept, so you don't, unless, there's probably isn't value to say, oh, here's your SD package, review it. They're probably gonna go quickly from start SD and then quickly into design development and not pause for that, so.
yeah, it just goes back to what Don was saying, is that getting the CM on
Yeah.
board is really early, so your procurement package is married to however the CM is going to buy the project.
Yeah, and what they can contribute in
Right.
terms of cost savings and smart design.
Yeah.
I almost think when we talked about it, that we did say that, just do a design development and then go into the next step.
Yeah.
Of construction and not, I think that's what we were suggesting to you.
I thought it was schematic design and design development like lumped into one phase.
Yeah, that's.
And they did that.
Yeah, I think that's what we were
They
talking about.
took that advice and.
Yeah.
Right. That just saves a little bit of effort on their part, and then you'll hire the CM, they'll work with you and then do an estimate at the end of design development.
Yeah.
Right? That's what your plan was, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the next step, like I would imagine, I mean, the earliest we're gonna get a CM on board right now is probably, would be, mid-October, and somewhere between the second week of October and Halloween. I would say we're on schedule to get them on board.
Okay.
Did you mention earlier, Dave, that the architect is developing, or is it your OPM that's developing the overall schedule?
Well, they're both doing their
Okay.
own kind of, like,
Well, sure, the architect would have a design schedule, but the overall project schedule, that's coming from the OPM?
correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then he needs the architect to tell him, what,
Right,
yeah.
yeah.
they need to negotiate, is
Yeah.
when do these deliverables happen? The point is we're trying to, I mean, wish it was June right now, but it's not, so we're trying to hit the spring
Yeah,
bid.
sure.
We don't want to dribble into summer and,
And that's the essence of my comment, is that schedule is really your tool to analyze that, and that's your tool to get there to where you want it.
Yeah. Would you mind sharing that updated schedule when you get it to us? Just so that we don't keep asking you. We'll have it and we can just say, where are you on the schedule instead of saying what the schedule is. So,
Yeah, good point.
Yep.
okay. Any other updates on that project?
I think that covers it.
Yeah, questions from everybody? Any more
No?
questions?
No, good.
When it's done, I don't know whether you notice or not, but will that be the main communication center as dispatch is moving there?
Yeah.
So it's going to be the
Dispatch.
main comm center, right?
Correct. Correct, because the entire police facility is moving out of
Moving.
20 Court and going over there, so it's a new PD. Fire is gonna have a substation there.
Yeah.
So that's the building that's gonna have presence of both.
And the EOC
This
is over there?
building's just gonna be the main fire station.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And EMTs are gonna run out of both.
Well, yeah, I was wondering.
I think they've talked about having an ambulance at both.
Yeah, it looks like when they were talking about parking and stuff, they were talking about splitting the vehicles, which I imagine one ambulance.
Yeah.
And then the EOC is going to be over in the news station, right?
Correct, it's gonna be part of the community room / training room /
Yeah, like it is over here. Like it is here, right now.
Yeah, but large enough.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering about the IT part of it.
Yeah.
With what way they're going to set up the communication over there. Their power.
Yeah, they were talking about stuff that was over my head yesterday about repeaters and.
Yeah, well, the repeaters
And
and,
mast arms and blah, blah, blah.
yeah, because they'll have the generators and all set up over there for the EOC and has to be
Yeah.
running and stuff.
Yeah, we talked about the generator. There was a lot of talk, let me ask you this. there's a lot of talk about, the generator has to be fossil fuels. We're doing a net zero building, you know, that's the goal, and so we're not tying the building, the heating system, you know, the mechanical system into gas, or, you know, we're not, you know, oil, whatever. So it's gonna be an electrified building, but there's no alternative for the backup generator, and this is an emergency facility. So
Yep.
we have to
But there
go-
is.
Huh?
Well,
So using for that, so Verizon, we're doing like 40 Verizon projects. It's all fuel cell,
oh, it's there,
all fuel cell,
Well,
every single one of them.
I mean,
With the capacity for what they need it for on the draw?
They're-
The police station, fire station?
It doesn't, I mean, a fuel cell will do, so like Google's campus is run off of fuel cells.
Is it
Wow.
the same price as a?
I wouldn't,
Okay.
no, it can't be.
Well, maybe that's why there's
Yeah.
no
Yeah,
option,
no way.
because we have a budget of 17 and a half.
Yeah, so, but I think what I see is a lot of places, especially in Massachusetts, because of the new energy pieces, is that fuel cells basically very, very small amount of natural gas and
Yeah, it was just-
solar, and
Well, I was just gonna say, the fuel cell that I'm familiar with, it still uses natural gas.
it only uses natural gas as the generator for the,
Right.
basically for the gas is what they break up between oxygen and,
Okay.
so that's what they use to swap back and forth across the,
Yeah, so he was saying, because they work down in Mass, and they were like, they're all diesel. They're all either diesel, like 90% of them are diesel, 10% are natural gas.
you're gonna see a change.
Well, no,
Yeah.
I understand that, but I'm saying right now. and-
Right, right.
and-
Yeah.
and-
Yep.
And so, that's what he said.
Yep.
So, like, between those two, is there anybody got any?
It's gonna depend on the size of the generator.
yeah, I use both of
Natural
them.
gas can only go up to a certain
Right.
Yep.
size of generator.
Yeah.
If you're over that, then you're gonna be in diesel no matter what.
Yep.
So that's the first thing. If you're under where you have an option,
Okay.
I mean, then it's gonna be about do you have natural gas available there?
Yeah.
Okay,
So it's probably but
that might be. your best.
1,000,
Yeah. What? What do you mean, the
or
distance?
the size of the generator.
Yeah, I think it's like a 500 kW is about where you go with natural gas, as far as the size of the generator.
Yeah, you could go higher, but the reality is they lose their efficiency as they go.
I think well, you probably can, it's just a cost also.
Yeah.
So do you think, what do you think the needs of that building? Are you
I have no
familiar
idea.
with them enough?
No,
No, okay.
I don't know.
You'd have to do the draw with the electrical, like to see exactly what they're gonna draw,
Yeah.
because there is like a whole system to what they're gonna back up for, especially for an EOC.
Well,
I've worked on a few, so.
Yeah, I understand
Yeah.
that, so maybe somebody knew, someone
Yeah.
probably knows it enough, like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
it would be at least 1,000 or something
Yeah.
like
So,
like,
that. you
Let's
know?
say, so it's gonna depend what you have on it. So if you have, it's an electric building, right? So your heating and air conditioning is electrified, and of course your power, and your,
Yeah.
excuse me, emergency systems. So if you're gonna try to have heat in the building and it's electric heat, then it's gonna be it's gonna be a large generator.
Yep.
Oh,
So
yeah.
like our building when I was at the hospital over in Epping, that facility which is about 30,000 square feet, is on a 350.
Okay,
And that's the whole building.
that's for heating too?
Yeah.
That seems small, but yeah.
Heating, but the reality is most of your load is cooling load.
Yeah,
So
well,
it's-
not if it's electric.
Electric is
Yeah,
different. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
Well, even that, I mean, it's still gonna be,
Yeah.
because, between LEDs and everything else, the hospitals was a
True.
1,500, 500, 2,500 and 500.
So fuel cell, I mean, I'm familiar with them, but I didn't think that they were there yet.
Yeah, no, it's,
Capacity.
it said we're doing like 40 Verizon facilities.
Okay.
Yeah. I was interested in how they were gonna like keep the energy up over there, because I didn't know whether it was natural gas running down there, or was it gonna be diesel generators and all that as well, so that was kind
That
of.
was a discussion
Yeah.
yesterday.
The
'cause
reality
they
is
talked
that
about,
you can always change that out at
yeah,
some
they
point in
talked
time.
about the expense and the size, and, like,
Yeah.
and you can do a belly,
Yeah.
belly tank with a diesel, or, like, so that was up in the air, it was discussed. So,
And
like, and we were like, well, which one's more sustainable, you know, if there is a choice, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, with diesel, you have storage on site with diesel, you know, there's a lot of issues with that,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, our preference has always been, if we can, is to go natural gas.
Yeah, it's way
It's a
cleaner.
smaller generator.
Yeah.
Well,
You don't have the diesel fuel, obviously, and you don't have the, you know, there's usually the double wall tanks and that sort of thing, so.
and that's the other question
All kinds
back
of
to them, is that ultimately if it's a combination, so if they were to use battery, right? So if they were going to use battery backup for some of this stuff.
There will be. UPSs will be everywhere on that.
Correct. So the reality is that they could have a combination of electrified backup, so,
Yeah. But if you're talking about, I don't know what your standard is for backup, but if you're saying we want to have 100% operation for 48 hours, you're beyond.
right.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know what the criteria is. I'm guessing it's a police station, so they're probably gonna say it's a long time that they want to have this redundancy. So at that point,
Yeah.
you know, if it's 100%, if it's heating or cooling and, you know, complete operation, that's probably a pretty good sized generator.
It strikes me, though, that these are all valid questions not to be solved here. But,
Yeah.
But
No.
back to Dave to iron them out with the architect and with the team.
And I plan to, I'm glad I asked, because I just
Yeah.
wanted to get everyone.
Yeah, no,
his opinion, and now I got something to go back with, like, just to talk about fuel site, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds expensive to me,
It is.
you know? It's- You know, and we only have so much, you know, we only have so much budget.
But that technology's coming. I mean, that's
The tech,
so,
yeah, it's,
Yeah.
and you're seeing it in certain areas, obviously, there, I mean, put it this way, Amazon, like, all of their data centers now basically rely on fuel cell data centers because they don't want to pay, they don't want to have all the fuel and everything else. They have solar arrays, they have, again, fuel cell, solar arrays. They're doing it because it's ultimately, from a operations standpoint, it's just less money.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, I heard that, you know, like, that's what's been saying lately, that to produce a kilowatt hour, solar's less expensive to produce a kilowatt hour of energy than fossil fuels is now.
Yeah.
That was never the case, and then now it's
tilting.
It's tilting the other way.
Okay, great.
Right.
Yeah, thanks, Dave.
Then the next one, I think is still with you, Dave, Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
And Hampton Road.
This one, I don't know what I told you before, but we interviewed several firms for CM. We decided we recommended going with Hampshire Development Corp., Steve Wilson.
Yeah.
Local, you know,
Yes.
developer, does quite a bit of work here in Exeter. Felt very comfortable with him doing the project. He's very knowledgeable about rehabbing old buildings. I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of his niche, one of his fortes. He turns this into that, you know, so, we were impressed with them. We you know, started contract negotiations, and they, to kind of have a, you know, protection for everybody, they recommended getting an OPM, so they could deal with the recs and all that, like, so they didn't have to deal with who their contractors were. So they recommended that. We had no issue with that. Like, hey, someone to kind of take over this project and help out. We had the funding for it, so we.
You do have the funding for it, okay.
Yeah,
Well.
we do. And it's not out of the grant funding. It's out of the revolving fund and the rec.
Nice.
Because we all felt it was a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
We're pretty good to have, I think it was a great decision to have CHA and an OPM on the PD. So we're like, yeah, we'd like one for that. So we went to the select board, David Tubby went to the select board a couple weeks ago, got approval because we just went through an RFQ process, our RFP process, kind of slash RFQ, for an OPM. So, and we chose CHA, so we asked the select board, you know, can we just piggyback off that qualifications? We already interviewed, you know, several firms and got a ton of proposals, and, you know, can we just go and contract with CHA? And they authorized us to do that.
Oh, good.
So we're, well, a little snag is originally they said, but they're such a big firm, like the brass, if you will, was like, you know, $35,000, $50,000 contract. They kind of don't do those, but we're working it out, hopefully, to make that happen. So we hope there'll be the OPM on the project soon. And the other thing we have to write is the contract that originally was proposed, like kept mentioning an architect, but there's no architect like involved at this point. So so we kind of scrapped the contract. So we haven't contracted with HDC yet, but we thought, okay, let's get CHA on board, and then they can tell us what type of contract and what needs to be in there, the scope of work and the deliverables and all that, so everyone knows what everyone's responsible for. So that's kind of where we are right now.
So this question is for both projects. Who is the OPM reporting to?
Well, it's not decided on the rec project because it's not on board.
Right.
I would probably say me on the PD. I'm the one that, I mean, ultimately it's Russ, but I'm the one sending emails, I'm the one talking to him, mostly.
So it's not the major stakeholder in the project, so the OPM is not reporting to police and fire. They're working directly with you on this project. And would that be the same approach for Parks and Rec? That the OPM would work with you?
Well, I don't know, it's gonna evolve, I mean, this is a new thing with us.
Yeah.
So that's the situation right now, but I think it's gonna evolve, and like, if it needs to be, like, as we get into the design, I mean, yesterday's meeting was all about the chiefs, the police chief and
Sure.
the fire chief and, the OPM and I was just like sitting there, I'm talking about logistics, about, setting up the design kickoff meeting,
Sure.
finding out, like, kind of those logistic things.
Yeah.
So I don't know we haven't made a decision on what the rec project's gonna be.
I think it's for the protection of the project and the scope. You should think about it, how do you keep the major stakeholder from driving that project, where we've talked before about the scope creep, right? So you have a department that is solely benefiting from this project and is directing everybody on the project, where you have this project where this is the scope, and then after a while it grows and grows because people get talked into, you should do this, you should do that. So my suggestion would be, just for the board, the committee to talk about, is that OPM, it's helpful for it to have a way to say, hey, this project's going way out of whack, instead of trying to go back to that major stakeholder. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Oh, I think yes, I agree with you, and I think it's set up that way.
That's why I was asking how this is structurally.
If that's your recommendation on the rec project, I would certainly bring that back, because I tend to, I understand.
Yeah.
Well,
I understand.
to me, it's also a lot like what you do for accounting, is that you have a checks and balance. The
Yeah.
reality is that the person that they may be talking to, but whoever signs off on things should be somebody that's different than.
Someone has the big picture in mind,
Yeah.
right? Someone that is looking
Yeah.
at, it's not just looking at what the program is, but also the budget, about all the other things that
Yeah, I think we're well covered on the PD, because as part of the weekly check-ins, Russ is on it.
Yeah.
Melissa, the assistant town manager, is on it. Finance director Corey Stevens is on it. Myself is on it. So we're all kind of plugged in for that half hour.
Yeah.
Corey's kind of watching the numbers and the budget. So I think it's a team approach.
Right.
But I'm like the main point of contact. If Joe or David needs something, they call or email me.
Which is good, because you're independent, right? You have
Yeah,
nothing
exactly.
to gain out of this,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
that it's not your building. It's same thing with Parks and Rec, is that you're supporting them, but you're not the one you're not trying to build your office here, right? So, and I think it's not hard, if you're not used to this, that you quickly get yourself into trouble by scope creep. And nothing against HGC and CHA, but they're just trying to do what the client's asking. So if their client is separate, that's, I think, a benefit. So, but any other?
Yeah, that's
you're right.
definitely will.
So Parks and Rec, so you've selected the contractor, HDC. You're hoping to use an OPM that's still working through some contractual.
Yeah, the next step, get the OPM on board. That's the next step. And if for some reason, it doesn't work, we'd have to go out for an RFP. We don't want to do that, but we hope it works out. But if it works out, get the contract with HDC, written, reviewed, and executed.
Yeah.
And then boom, then it's off to, then construction can start, and, exploratory demolition, all that can start.
But you have a really strict completion date, right?
We do, of August 2025. I did hear, though, that Greg did tell me there's like a safety valve that the feds just put in there
Yeah.
to provide for a possible year extension but it's gotta be requested, but we're not, that makes us feel better, but we're not requesting one.
Okay.
We're gonna keep going right now, like we're finishing at August 25, because we want to, it's been lingering.
Okay.
That's everything finished, right? That's invoicing and all, everything done?
That's like, when they say the grant's done by August 25, it's complete.
Done.
I mean,
Yeah.
CO, everything's done. I mean, everything that was supposed to be done is done.
Okay. Okay. It's good to have a deadline so that
Yeah.
you can,
Yeah.
work, keep yourself on the.
Yeah, and HTC was confident that that deadline was very doable,
Right.
so.
Okay. I think that maybe I should cover this in new business, but I think you had sent some information on the current Parks and Rec building? Did I see that in my email?
The PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Was that on the public safety complex?
No, that was the public safety complex.
Oh,
Yeah.
is that what it is? Oh, okay.
That was probably,
Yeah,
it wasn't Parks and Rec.
Oh,
no.
sorry. Okay.
Yes.
That was just because last meeting, I had mentioned, about 20 court, the discussion,
Yeah.
and I said,
Yeah.
there was I took all the past studies, pulled them all together, culled through all the recommendations, and put them all into one. There's 47 of them. And then I went with the fire chief and the police chief, and I sat down with him, and I was like, is this gonna be solved, And we went down, and 41 of them were either partially or fully solved with the new facility.
Right.
There was only a half dozen or so that were outstanding, and that was the decon, the elevator, the ADA accessibility
Yeah.
here, a decon room, because now it's hot zone, warm zone, cool zone.
Right, yep.
They don't have that over there. The station wasn't built during, that time, so the carcinogens can travel into, their living space. So we did put in the CIP in the thing about that, looking at, a decon and, trying to manage that space. But that's a few years out. We're
Okay.
gonna build this.
No,
one first.
I was thinking it was the current Parks and Rec building that you had
No,
sent.
no, you would we never saw that analysis. And I said I'd send it to you.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
So that's why I was sending it, just.
Got it. So piggyback off where we were talking about Parks and Rec, what's the address of the current Parks and Rec building?
32.
32 Core?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've talked about those next steps, right? They move into this new building, and then what's happening to that? So that's where I was getting that we should, at some point, we've talked about how we can help that process, and so I guess maybe we should put that on the agenda to discuss that more.
Yeah, I mean, good to start early. I mean, we're looking probably not moving in until next August, about a year from now, but
Right, but
it's good
still.
to start now, yeah.
What are you gonna do with that building if it's gonna be empty or if
Yeah.
it's gonna be used by someone?
Yeah, and I think I've heard that's on the select board's radar screen as well.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe we talked about it last meeting. Sure. All right, any questions on Parks and Rec?
No, good, thanks.
So next on the agenda, Dave, back to you.
Yeah.
CIP?
Yeah, it's not done. She's assembling, it's done, but Kathy's assembling the final reports. And it's not assembled yet. She's doing that as we speak. And she'll be sending those out, so everyone will get a copy. But I just wanted, I think I sent you in the beginning, remember we went over. Nothing's really changed, but I just wanted to go over, I'm not gonna go over the whole thing. I mean, we did a presentation at the planning board on August 8th. And then we did a public hearing on the 22nd. No one showed, for the public hearing, but I would have probably alerted the FAC, but I had hand surgery August 1st. I was out for the first couple of weeks. I didn't even attend. Well, I attended it remotely. So. I couldn't even put my shirt on for a couple of weeks there. So, but it went well. They adopted the CIP, and for facilities. They called out a few on the planning board, because usually they call out a few, things that they feel are important in the CIP for funding in 2025. And they said the effluent flume at the sewer treatment plant, because the effluent flume's kind of deteriorating, the concrete's, splaying off, so that's in there. Groundwater.
See, that was for which one?
Effluent flume for the sewer. I think it was it wasn't new.
It's not new, part of the new building. It's, this is.
Oh, God, it scared me.
I know. Already.
It's all, yeah, it's, no, it's,
Yep.
you know, the effluent flume and disinfection structure are original structures from the old wastewater
Yep.
treatment plant facility. So it was just, you know, we kept it and now it's starting to, you know, fail. So the planning board recommended that. They also, and finally, the groundwater source development, you know, they pushed for that. And also the replacement of the fuel island at DPW.
So there's three?
Those three that they, you know, they highlighted and said, you know, they support all the projects, obviously, but they said, you know, at least they recommend, you know, really support those for funding in 2025.
Yeah.
In the event, you know, because sometimes, you know, there's a lot of projects in 2025 coming and
Oh, really?
not all of them can make it.
Right.
You know, I mean, there's no really large ones, you know, but, so there is, in 2025, there's the fuel island. There's the transfer station upgrades. It's a pretty small, that's a pretty small project.
That's like the entrance, right? There wasn't a changing the
Well,
entrance and
it's,
stuff?
yeah, it's more the circulation.
Yeah.
Like, you know how you have to drive up and then you have to back down?
Oh, to the roll-off stuff.
Yeah. Well, the people going up to get up top to throw it in the dumpster.
Yeah.
Yeah, the middle bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they want to drive up and over. They want it like a one-way thing.
Okay.
So it's $100,000. They just want to make it more usable. They think, you know, it gets busy, it gets kind of, there's no direction. So they want to kind of start funneling people driving one way and, you know, kind of going around in a circle and getting out. So that's one project. The park improvement fund, that's, you know, that's every year. ADA improvements, that's a capital reserve fund every year. A couple of new ones that kind of are, you know, not really facilities, but I just threw them in there, like electric charging, vehicle charging infrastructure out here in the back parking lot. There's a pole there and some overgrown landscaping where we're gonna remove and put a couple spots, and that
Yep.
pole right there we could use for the power to put a charger in. There's a styrofoam recycling unit proposed for the DPW. It actually recycles styrofoam. And we usually don't get into this, but Pickpocket Dam, you know, that's proposed to, you know, do some work about replacement.
Replacement or removal?
I mean removal, that's what was recommended, was removal, sorry. And then, like I said, the groundwater source development. I think, what are they doing with the surface water treatment plant? When is that?
I thought that was that not FY '25, is that later?
That is 26. Yeah, so that's, I thought, I had, so those are the 25. I will send you a complete CIP final when it's assembled. And we can certainly talk about it at the next meeting, because now you know, there's no funding attached to the CIP. Planning board doesn't get into, finances. Now it's up to the town manager to assemble his budget and put forward what he feels should be funded in the CIP in his budget. And then it'll go to budget review committee, and, you know, they'll have their comments, and then it'll go to select board, they'll have their comments, and then it goes to the voters, who have the final say.
Right.
But we would want you involved if you have any comments or issues with that, any recommendations.
I know at the last meeting, I wasn't here, but you did talk about the placeholder for the train station facility. And I brought along a copy, a group of us, Bob Hall, Darren Winham, John Ring, myself, put together a timeline, draft timeline, out through 26 of what we thought, and I have a copy for you, Dave.
Okay.
And I didn't want to send this ahead of the meeting with the sunshine laws and such, so I thought I'd give you a copy, and then I'll send this email by everybody, and Dave, I have a copy.
Okay.
Do you have a copy for all of us, Don, or just?
Not right now,
Okay,
I'll send
all
it,
right.
I'll follow up with an
Okay.
email and send it. But we have the meetings, and meetings are great, we talk, but the purpose of this was to go beyond just discussion and to put together for 3 years a proposal, very loose proposal, of what the actions would be for the next 3 years in order to move from a placeholder in CIP into order actually accomplishing something out at the train station. So that's what the purpose of this is, so when you see it, you'll recognize what it is.
Was that does that say the first funding in '26?
Well, it would almost have to be because there's no funding in '25. It's just a placeholder for '25, so.
Well, that's what, because, you know, I mean, in the way we look at the CIP is, and we try to avoid projects coming in, like, you know,
Yeah.
you know, and then, because the CIP is a 6-year,
Yeah.
you know, plan, we kind of want it to come in into the back years and then work its way through.
Sure.
So people get familiar with it, and it's kind of a, you know,
Yeah.
prioritization. Some flip to the front,
Yeah.
but it's more the effluent flume at the sewer treatment plant where, you know, it's a critical, you know, infrastructure. So that's why it was originally proposed for '25, but we were like, you know, let's.
So this is just a timeline, recognizing that the whole thing may move on forward. But I think the points that are in the timeline are valid, whether it starts in '25 or it's '26 or moves
Yeah,
forward.
okay.
So the purpose of this was just to enunciate, if you take a look down a couple of pages there, it enunciates all the possible things, and it's not complete, but all the possible things that would have to be done to get from where we are now to actually completing a project.
And is that a building that probably ultimately should end up as part of our facility conditions assessment?
Of course,
too?
yes.
Be on the list?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it would have bathrooms.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they'd propose, like a little area, little welcome area and then bathrooms.
Yeah, and it could grow, but it's roughly just under 1,000 square feet, positioned right in front of where the station platform is now, on our land, because the platform is actually on CSX land, and you aren't going to make any additions or development on CSX land. It's not going to happen. So it would have to give up a number of parking spots or relocate parking spots, and the team is looking to how that would be accomplished. And it could grow, and the chamber has expressed real interest in having their office in this place. And the purpose of it is Exeter's got 10 trains a day. Very unusual for a town this size to have 10 trains, 5 round trips. And so it's really, Darren's viewpoint is, this is really an economic opportunity for people to come to Exeter, to get off the train, to have the amenities that should be there, go in town, go shopping, wayfinding, come back, get on the train, and really make Exeter a destination, not just largely a commuter place is now. But train ridership went flat in the pandemic, absolutely zero. But it's back now where it is beyond what it was before the pandemic.
Yep.
Trains are oftentimes full, and there's just a great opportunity. So this is really linked to the economic opportunity for Exeter. So this is a starting point.
Right? The ridership is surpassed prior,
Yes.
pre-COVID?
Yes.
Yeah, it's booked out in the morning.
Yeah.
If you don't pre-book, you're probably not going to get on the train in the first train in the morning.
Is it, yeah, because I've been keeping track of parking.
It's shifted, Dave.
Yeah, that nobody parks, like it used to back up on Lincoln Street. I mean, you know, by
Yeah.
7 o'clock, Lincoln Street would be, you know, to
What-
the
for-
school.
What has happened, it's unusual, is that prior to the pandemic, people were working at work and commuting. Now those morning trains are split. There are people going to work, but a lot of them are working remote. But what has filled the gap in the numbers is during the day. The trains during the day that go to Portland or Brunswick and Boston are filling up.
Yeah, it's pretty packed.
People are
That's-
using,
Okay. all
people,
right, 'cause it
that's,
didn't- yeah.
that's where the numbers are coming from.
Yeah, I take the bus from Seabrook to Boston, it's packed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, all good news, and we're the only station on the line that does not have amenities. And there's an economic link to this for the future. Because public transportation is going to grow, it's not going to go in the other direction.
Yeah, it's a great project. I mean, I encouraged Darren to put it in the CIP.
Yeah,
I was like, you know, you gotta get it in the CIP, you gotta, you know, get it in the CIP. Then I was a little surprised that it was 25. I was like, wait a minute, can we just,
yeah. Well,
I mean, just, you
and
know.
so this timeline
Yeah.
goes from 25, but actually we're reasonable, understanding enough that it's probably going to slip.
Yeah.
But I will email that to all of you, and then you'll have it.
Great.
But I mean, like I told Darren, I said, you know, and to relate to you folks, you know, the BRC recommend a change. The select board could recommend a change, So if there's a, momentum to move it ahead, then, so
Yeah.
be it.
Well, good. I mean, that's a good transition to the next one, was new business. So which I would say that CIP and the train station would be new business on that. So you're done with CIP, Dave? Anything else?
No, unless you have any questions.
I don't. Anybody? So we talk about the train station as being on the CIP, but also for us to be more involved in that process.
When you see the timeline, the Facilities Assessment Committee is included in the timeline as an action place.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good. All right, so we'll go to new business. Alan, do you have anything new?
I do not.
Rob?
Again, I want to reiterate kind of what we had talked about, what are the next steps for the FCA piece a few weeks, probably a couple months ago, which is, we've got that portion, we talked about the idea of now saying that do we step into a kind of facility use planning exercise, so we've got it at, I think this is a good example of the train station, the 20 Court, 33 Court Street or 32 Court Street, we've got town hall, town offices, DPW,
Right. So
library.
So you're thinking, as a committee, is to look at these spaces and come up with a recommendation? Or?
Yeah, exactly. So I think instead of being kind of an ad hoc scenario, so like even I know the town hall, I'm again not sure if anything's happening with that at all, or if that seems to be a traction item that, where we've got a lot of program pieces that are competing for space, and trying to sit there and say if there's competing for space for program areas, are there other areas in which that need to be collected so that there's actually more of a planning to say, this is trajectory where this potentially could go, or that could potentially go. So from a reinvestment, so like 32 Court Street, if there was we want to put blank back into this building. And so as a group, we sit there and say, all right, if it's, not us, but the town, saying there are enough program items to go in a certain location, where you really have a mass to say reinvestment in those
Right.
makes sense, right?
So as a committee, I'm just making notes here. So just go back in the town hall. I was supposed to reach out to Julie Gilman to ask her what she had for information, what her next steps are on that, because I guess there's that committee. But you're thinking, so we're looking at the current town buildings that maybe are underutilized, and us as a committee coming up with a recommended process
Yes.
to assess those. Is that what you're?
Yes, to assess those, or, I mean, it literally could be a process. So when somebody comes up with an idea, I want a studio for AV studio. And then people get into this. What happens, I see, is that nothing ever gets done because someone will say, well, I need AC, I need this, I need that, I need all this infrastructure to do this studio. Oh, well, that can't go in this location, or it can go in this location, and we get stymied by, because it hasn't been planned out.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's to sit there and say, is there a way for us to develop a process so that when these things come up, we have an assessment of spaces that are available and a need, and then how do you marry the space with the need? Or you've got how many community rooms do we have in town? How many different gathering spaces? You have this space, you have the town hall, you have the library, you have all these different spaces.
Okay. I mean, I think it's a good idea. I'm trying to how we would frame it and how we would do this. I mean, you're not suggesting like a master plan.
Well, I guess you'd have, I know we did one probably 10 plus years ago, which was a space needs assessment.
Yeah.
it was probably more like 15 years ago. Which they pretty much went through like different facilities and developed programs, but
But that was the first try at a facilities condition assessment, too,
Correct.
right? Who was the
Was that Turner Group? Was it?
Who was that?
SMRT.
Turner, was it Turner? Turner, what?
SMRT did one, when we did the
Yeah.
town hall project in 2011,
Yeah,
that, SMRT had done a space needs analysis. They looked at the town hall, they looked at the town offices, they looked at a bunch of other buildings, that started that process to begin to kind of saying, here's what you have for facilities. Here's, room types, and then that's kind of when one of the one projects said, okay, what do we do with the town hall, right?
yeah, the lower level.
The lower level,
Yeah, yeah.
and then even at the stage, and then the back, doing a stairwell on the back side of that, and
I mean, is it a space needs analysis? I mean, do
it's,
you look at all the spaces and say that, you're overcrowded in this spot, but, underutilized over here and start to,
that's what I think that's fundamentally would be that, it's just trying to make sure that we're doing this so that we're not, there's a way to capture this similar to the FCA so that we actually have a digital
yeah.
tool, and
Yeah,
it's a tool that gets used. And I'm not sure who uses it. I think this is probably part of is it part of our charge to help sort that out, or is it something else, somebody else that's,
With the FCA?
so yeah, or no. So let's say an example would be someone comes to Russ and says, hey, Russ, I want to do blank. So who does Russ tap to sit there and say, how do I marry, this request with a space? I'm sure you have this all the time, right?
Yeah, but
I used to have this all the time.
Well, I'm just trying, so I think there's two different things, right? One is an analysis of
Yep.
the space, right? Like, who's where and, like you said, how many meeting rooms do you have on campus? And not on campus, I mean, built, town owned. And then the other part of it is developing that process that if somebody wants to move or create an office, like, how does that get reviewed and signed off on?
Yep.
That's what you're talking about
Yes.
too, right? So, yeah. Okay, I mean, what does everybody else think?
Yeah, I think we kind of brought up with the DPW last week when Steve Cronin was talking about they were kind of crowded down there and they were going to have to move stuff around.
Yeah.
Talked about utilizing maybe 32, 33 Court Street. We use it all the time. Like I've used different systems that work just like probably you, that will have like a space plan, and if somebody wants to book a space plan or you need it, we put it into like the system and somebody would book it and then somebody would monitor it. But yeah, definitely for all the sites that they will. Even the new PD site will have like a training room. This has a training room over here. It could be utilized for different trainings, and people always looking for this. Yeah, I think it's probably worth doing.
So what, if we were just to try to look at all the buildings that the town owns and do that assessment, that's like a space needs analysis or just an assessment, how would that work? I mean, DPW has kind of done their own in their campus, right? They've looked at that.
That's kind of like where we also had talked to them about, really for them, master planning
Right.
doing the space and need assessment, master planning their site so that they really did have kind of a longer range view of it.
Yeah, and part of that is you've done there's been an organizational review, right? I know we talked about this last time, but that's where you did hire a company that came in and looked at all the departments and looked at staffing needs and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
So you have that, so now you know that, the building department is recommended to grow or whatever.
Yep.
You have that information, so then you could take that and then look at the existing buildings and start to think about, well, you need to start thinking about how you're going to meet those needs of those departments, right? So, I mean, it would be a good exercise. I just don't know, like, is that hiring somebody to do that, or is that, the town doesn't have resources to do that. I mean,
No,
they don't have a planner.
No, and I think that's the question, is ultimately, is it somebody you bring in to help that? And I think part of that would be initially just looking at requests. There's got to be, so how do requests even come in for space, for, for anything? Is it just kind of an ad hoc, go to Russ, or?
Like, well, you have the work order system, right?
Yeah, but space for what? For like a new office, like a permanent or a temporary or?
New office, or, by the way, we've got it, we just got an operational assessment. It looks like we need 3 people to be in X, Y, Z. To me, that would initiate
Yeah.
a review.
So would that, it's not a CIP process, but would that be like going to Russ and asking?
Yeah, it wouldn't, I wouldn't be me.
No,
I know.
exactly.
So I don't really know what the process is or
Yeah.
isn't, so. I do know that, some things happened recently, like I offered to split my office in half. They came in, they built
Oh,
the
yeah.
wall, and now someone's, there's 2 people and 2 offices instead of 1 person in 1 office, so that happened. They changed the assessing. Now HR is down there and assessing moved over. So they have been doing some of that, but I haven't been involved in that. So I
Right.
don't know what the process is.
So used to do it especially for smaller things, were all done by work order at the
Yeah.
hospital. So we just basically, a work order would come in and would say, I just hired, 3 people or whatever it was, and then you'd get a request. And that request would go to either design, facilities or whatever it was, to kind of sort through it so you knew who is the next person in the queue to do
It's like a
that.
capital request, right?
Exactly.
So somebody puts in and says that
Yeah,
you're
so
saying,
you're really suggesting some capital planning, basically, outside of facility assessment. But given, usually the way these things work, and that's a very good example, is she'll split an office, and then it'll come to a point where it just does not work anymore.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden it rises up to the level of authority, in this case, the select board, that says, we have to do something about this. And then usually something happens. So if you step back from that, want to get ahead of it, capital planning,
Yeah.
you start to sense these things are happening. And in the town of Exeter versus, say, Phillips Exeter or UNH, it's more of a finite kind of situation. And so probably it's opportunities. And you look and say, where are the opportunities? The town, the needed opportunities. They're the town hall, they're probably public works. There's probably a handful of these that are the focus items.
Yep.
Where you'd say, these are the areas where it's worth doing some capital planning. That doesn't answer the question that was just here a moment ago, though, is how is that accomplished?
Right.
Yeah, because it takes people to accomplish that. Whether you bring somebody on board working out of Dave's department, or whether it's in-house with another person, that's a whole nother discussion of how you accomplish
Right.
it.
Yeah.
But I can see some value in putting together part of the process, whether it's in Facilities Advisory Committee or whether it resides somewhere else, is look ahead capital planning.
yeah, I think there's a unique opportunity because there's potential to have 32 Court Street empty.
Yes,
Right?
yeah.
So there's an opportunity because you have an empty space. So then you could tie into a lot of these things where if this building here is overcrowded, instead of having to divide up more offices, is there an opportunity to take advantage of that? DPW is having the same conversations about their
Right.
building. So,
Yeah.
so because we have an opportunity with 32 Court and Town Hall is another one, right? They're
Yes.
talking about that with the program.
20 court?
20
In
20
fall of
Court.
26.
Yeah.
And that gives a more thoughtful
There's gonna be about
process.
7,000 square feet over there that's
That gives a more
Yeah.
thoughtful
not
process.
gonna be available.
Right.
rather
The
than
fire might
have an
repurpose
infill.
some of it, but they're not gonna.
Yes.
They don't need all of
And
it.
you
No,
know what happens
before-
with infills.
Yeah, but before they go and just expand on their own and take over that seven, I mean,
Yeah.
there should be a more thoughtful process, like
Yeah.
how to best utilize that
Yes.
space.
Correct,
Highest
and they're
and best
not, that's not the goal for them, because
No, but-
the station was built in 1979 to house four on a shift. It was built for 4 on a shift. That's what it's gonna revert back to its original amount of people it was designed for after they moved to the new station. So that's what the fire chief said, so it's like, now it fits, So
Right.
I'm not sure, like, why would they need 6,700 extra square feet of the PD. I don't know.
So, but maybe somebody else could though, right? So that.
Correct.
So you're saying.
That's
so-
what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm saying, you know, adding
that-
to that we have
Yeah.
vacant spaces.
Right, and I think that's why this is really an opportunity right now, based upon what's happening with both the, 20 court, 32 court, I think also DPW, because when we did our walkthrough there, you could tell they were basically, jammed in there like,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they've done the same
Sardines.
thing, used to have a conference room, and now it's offices, I think.
Right.
over there, Right, they've lost that a couple of years ago, so.
yeah.
I mean, if you don't need it, if you need certain departments that need to be together, just put them down over in PD or in Court Street,
Yeah.
Yeah.
finance or,
Right.
then they're separate and they have room and.
And I think part of this is too, is with kind of some of the history, we know like 32 Court, one of the reasons that Parks and Rec, besides, the opportunity there was, didn't have an elevator, was not accessible, it needed all sorts of infrastructure issues, it was, it was a challenging building on its own. So I think that, those are the, whether you reinvest in something that or not, or do you divest, that's part of your, your long-term capital planning is to say, do we reinvest in this? Do we divest from it? What do we do with these particular properties? Do we have a use for it? Is it gonna sit there and get fallow? Do we have the budgets to do something with it, or will it become just somebody, a place for someone to camp out?
So, I think this would be a good time for us to really start, our committee would be coming up with a recommendation
Yep. Yeah.
and trying to help develop, like, what is the scope, what are we recommending, right? Rob, do you want to take a first pass?
Yeah. Yep.
We can,
Sounds like a good future discussion, one agenda item for our coming meetings.
yeah, so if you want to take a pass at, let's, kind of write down your thoughts, and we'll put that on the agenda for next, and really try to come up with a good recommendation for the town to take and see, it sounds like it is probably, whether it's hiring somebody or, I think it would have to be, but taking these spaces that they have that has this potential to be available, is analyzing that, but then looking at the other departments about how can it be utilized, and maybe it comes out that it can't be, and it's access space, and
Right.
something else comes up with it,
Yeah.
whether it's renting or leasing
Yeah.
or selling. So, but okay, that's great.
So that's the only thing I had was just, we had done, when we first started out, we kind of had a three-step process. One was, the first step was the FCA, the second step was really this space needs assessment, and the last one was really kind of marrying the two things together. And I think that was the kind of reiterating, getting back to that, our next steps of, I think it is the space needs, and then the final part of it really is, the capital portion of it.
Yeah.
To do these
Capital
things.
planning.
Capital plan.
That was a good way to talk about it. I don't have any new business.
Just, it's old business, but I'll just say that Kristen and I and Stephen were at Rains Farm yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And the barn is coming along good. Stephen Bedard is doing great work on the side that you see as you leave town. It's coming together. And then Kristen has arranged, the town's arranged for another contractor on the other side to do the north side and the west side. So, this project, I was on the Con, and then I'm still on their building committee. But this project has been 20 years in the making from when we acquired the barn, but now it has a new roof, several years old. The siding's been done, or will be done this year. It has new sills. It's protected. And so the goals that we set out years ago is to protect it, make sure that it's in good condition, so that the next phase, I'll use that term, is the town use. And the Con and Kristen have already been using over the past years many uses of it, particularly in the winter and such. So now the inside has been done. It's been structurally strengthened. There's new flooring and decking inside. It's going to eventually have a fire detection system. It is electrified. The barn is really coming together, and those goals will be accomplished here the end of this year.
Yeah, so that's another perfect lead-in. There's another space within the community that's available or will be available at some point in time.
It's the last, I've been on the Rains Committee for many years, but it's the last 100-foot barn in Exeter. It goes back to the history of Lincoln. That's its genesis. And the town recognized that when they purchased it with LCHIP funds, and then a second helping of LCHIP funds to do this siding. Town money through warrant articles for the roof. The town has been supportive. And so this is going to be a great addition to the town when it's finished, and it's protected.
Yep.
Very good.
And the Facility Advisory Committee, partly why I wanted to mention it, is you've been supportive of that with your letters and such, helping Kristen and getting grants and such for the project. So thank you.
It's great. Thank you for the update. Any other new business? Good. Do we have a motion?
Motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
Second. Meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you
Dave,
for
I got
tuning in
this for
to
you.
Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.